If I'm talking too low, please raise your hand. I'll try to talk louder. So, I think this class was called The Intuition of Reality. And it'll be a class on Advaita Vedanta. And let me begin by thanking Vedamurti for inviting me here once again. He was here last year. He said that it was good, but he wanted something even more, a little more deeper. So, two people from last year. Was anyone else from last year?
Sure.
Okay.
Sita.
I wasn't Cologne yet. I haven't seen him before.
So most of the people are new, which is usually the case in Vedanta classes. So to some extent, I'll have to repeat some of the things. But what I was hoping to do was, last year I spoke just naturally, whatever came out, free form. So this year, what I'd like to do is to show that what I'm speaking about is in fact traditional Advaita Vedanta. In order to do that, I'm going to take a text, the most famous text in all of India, and maybe close to the whole world, which is called the Bhagavad Gita. Everyone has heard of the Bhagavad Gita? So this text is a very special text in Vedanta. Anyone who wants to study Vedanta must study the Bhagavad Gita. It's the cardinal text. A lot of people don't like the Bhagavad Gita because it seems theological, some kind of Krishna's on the field and he's talking to somebody and it sounds so theistic and it sounds dogmatic and it doesn't sound that there's much content to it. But in fact, the Gita is basically a philosophical text. It's not a theological text. And what I want to present here is Vedanta in a way that Vedanta is not dogmatic theology. And what I mean by that is nobody has to accept anything on faith. This is not a teaching that you have to believe it and then maybe when you die you'll go somewhere and you'll know whether there's some truth to this thing. The whole idea of Vedanta is that right here, right now, everybody, if they're willing to kind of try to understand, that's all that's required, what's being discussed, they will be able to follow this teaching. If they don't, you'll raise your hand and I think I'll be able to clarify it because it's not only is Vedanta not theology, dogmatic theology that demands blind faith, it's not mysticism. Vedanta is not mysticism. What I mean by mysticism is you don't need to get any kind of trance, any magical state. You don't have to see any lights. You don't have to get into some type of new state that you're not in yet. I haven't had any special state that you guys haven't had. I'm teaching this not because I have some special experience. Normally, Vedanta is presented that the guru, the teacher, not very often, the teacher presents himself as though he's gotten some kind of special thing. Usually they call it samadhi. They got samadhi. And because of that, they know something you don't know. And if that's the case, then you guys will have to get samadhi to know what I know. So the best I could do is tell you how to get samadhi. Then you guys go back to your room and do whatever, meditate, and get samadhi. Vedanta has nothing to do with any of that. There's big problems with mystical states, because you can have a Christian mystic who's had a mystical experience and tells you that Christianity is the correct thing. You can meet a yogi in India who claims that he had an experience and he knows that everything is empty. You can meet another yogi, he got samadhi, and he realizes that he is one with God, he claims. So how do we determine? We haven't had that samadhi. We have to believe it. It's a dogma. And if two mystics come together, this guy says this and this guy says, on what basis will you decide who's the correct one? Vedanta is not mysticism. It's not based on any special mystical experience. What is it based on? Sarvatrika Anubhava. It's based on the common experience of everybody all the time, everywhere, regardless of whether you're from Germany, America, China, Philippines, whether you're a woman or a man or a what ethnicity you might have, or it's a universal teaching that applies to everybody equally, and it's based on everybody's common everyday experience. That means right here, right now, if you examine your experience, you'll either be able to say, yes, that's my experience, or you'll be able to say, that may be your experience, but that's not my experience. So if anybody feels like that, I'm going to encourage you to raise your hand and tell me, I don't know what you're talking about, because that's contradictory to my experience. The teacher can't say anything that is not in accordance with your experience. That's a unique feature of this teaching. It's not religion. It's absolutely not religion. Religion is a blind belief. And once I believe something and another religion believes something, that's it. You see what the world is like because of religion. Religion is probably one of the greatest defects that has ever hit the planet. I don't think anything has caused more pain than dogmatic theology. So I want to distinguish what I'm saying here today from any type of religion or some type of mystical woo-woo. I call it woo-woo. That means cosmic consciousness that you haven't had, or some crazy thing that people claim. All right, so that's the framework. So the way I'm going to present this teaching is with the hope that everybody here, for themselves, at least a little bit, as I'm talking, they can nod their head and say, okay, I get it. I can follow that. That's interesting. That's the idea. That what I want to present is something totally unique. I came here to Yoga Vidya from America with the idea that I could share with people that are interested. You signed up, you came here, you paid some money. So what I want to do is share with you something that maybe you haven't heard anywhere else by anybody else. I've come here because I think that what I want to share with you is an ancient traditional teaching that nobody knows about. Sounds pretty arrogant, I'm sorry, but you'll decide at the end whether it was something different or something that you've already heard about. This is called the Asadharana Dharma, the unique teaching of Vedanta. So let me begin with just some fundamental ideas, which is this. The first thing that Vedanta teaches is that there's only one reality. One reality. In Sanskrit, they call that reality Brahman. It means the absolute reality. And they call it Ekam Advityam, means it's one, but in the world, when there's one cup, then there's something 1, 2, 3. When there's one, that means it's followed by a second. So in order to make sure that you understand that this one is not followed by a second, they call it Ekam Advityam. It is one without a second. There's no other reality besides this one reality. It actually gets a little more radical. They define it in 3 ways. So this one reality has to have these 3 qualities. The first is that other than that one reality, there is no other reality that's the same as it. Let me give you an example. Suppose reality is an orange. You have one orange, that's Brahman. Other than that Brahman, that orange, there's no other reality, another orange. There's no 2 oranges. Other than that one reality, there's no reality that's the same as that reality. Number 1 definition. The second definition is, other than that one reality, there is no other reality that's different from it. There's no other reality that's the same as it, and there's no other reality that's different from it. And the third definition is, within that reality, within it, there's no duality, no multiplicity. Within it, there's not many. There's nothing outside of it, the same or different, and within that reality, there's no duality within it. Often it's understood that there's one reality in which everything exists. But that's not Vedanta. In that one reality, there's nothing that's existing other than that reality. That's all that ever was, that's all that ever is, that means right now, and that's all that ever will be. Now, of course, this sounds ridiculous. We're all sitting here, you're listening to me talk, there's many things going on. How could there be one reality? It goes against our experience. Our experience is duality. Leave it alone. I'll try to show how that's possible. So that's the first unique thing. No other teaching in the world, and if anybody knows of some teaching like this, please raise your hand, that teaches that there's only one reality, and in it there's nothing, no multiplicity, and outside of it there's nothing existing, the same as it or different from it. Is there any, does anybody know of anything? You know, if you think of theology, there's one God, he's absolute, but he created the world, and he rules over the world. Yeah, that's theology. But here, there's no creator, because there's no creator, nothing created. The whole, because it's one without a second. So it's not like that. Then what else could it be? What teaching is even similar to this? You think about it. My claim is that Nobody teaches this or believes this or understands it like this. But the problem with this is that, so what? Let's just say there is such a thing as this one reality without a second. What does that got to do with me? I'm in the world, I'm a little guy sitting on a chair here, and what does that got to do with me? So the second unique teaching about Vedanta is that one reality. Let me say one more thing about that one reality before, which is, they call that reality Sat Chit Ananda. That one reality that in which there's no second is called Sat Chit Ananda. Let me just spend a second translating those words. Sat in Sanskrit means existence. So that reality is all that exists. Sat. But it doesn't exist like the cup exists or this room exists at some place, at some time. Its existence beyond time and space. You can't even conceive of it. Anything that we think of as existing exists someplace and at some time. But this Sat is beyond time and space. Number one. It's called Chit. The word Chit means consciousness. But it doesn't mean like we think in the world, I'm conscious of that board, I'm conscious of something. It means consciousness bereft without any object. If you could take all the objects out of your consciousness, that's called Chit. Existence beyond time and space. Consciousness that has no objects. And Ananda. Ananda means bliss. The nature of this reality is bliss. But it's not the bliss that we think about in the world when I open that ice cream and I take that spoon, and as soon as the ice cream touches my tongue, happiness. Or when I desire something very intensely and I get that desire, happiness. But Ananda, bliss, is not caused by anything. It's the very nature of reality. It's the bliss of non-duality. When there's no second thing, when there's no fear, when there's no desire, when there's nobody who can hurt you, when there's no second thing, that's called Ananda. That's the bliss of non-duality. It's the very nature of bliss. So that's Brahman, Satchitananda. It's one without a second. There's no duality in it whatsoever. Okay. The second part of this teaching is that Satchitananda, that Brahman, is who you are. That is who you are. The teaching of Vedanta is that thing which is beyond time and space. You know, when something is beyond time and space, it can never change. Only something in time or space can change. That changeless awareness is who you are, your true nature. Who you really are, according to Vedanta, is that one non-dual reality. You are bliss. You are immortality. In fact, Vedanta says you are everything that you really desire. Everybody desires not to die. We're hardwired for it. Nobody in general. Of course, if you're suffering, you may want to end it. But that's only because you want to end the pain. You want to be happy. But we're all afraid of death. I'm immortal and I want to be immortal. That's our desire. The second thing we all desire, and please stop me. I'm talking. If someone says, "No, I don't want any of that," raise your hand and we'll discuss it a little. The second thing I'm claiming that everybody desires is that we all want to be happy. We want to be happy. Nobody wants to be unhappy. It's natural. We all want to be happy. Nobody wants to die. And the third thing that we want is that we want to be free. We don't want to be limited. We don't want to be shackled. Everybody wants to be free, happy, immortal. And the whole teaching is that freedom, that immortality, that bliss is who you already are. What you're searching for is already what you are. But we don't know it. That's the second unique thing. That you are that. Everything that you're seeking for, that is your eternal nature. You are, in Sanskrit, you may have heard of this, it's called Tattvamasi, that thou art. Famous saying in the Upanishads. Has anyone heard of the Upanishads? Most people. So in the Chandogya Upanishad, 9 times, that I'll tell you the story of how this Tattvamasi, that thou art, come about. This is a little tangent, but since it's such an important sentence, you are that. By the way, if you think about those 3 words, you are that, it's not saying you will become that when you die. You will become that when you get samadhi. You will become that if you take your chakras and they come out of your head. You will become that if you see the golden. It's a statement of a fact. You don't have to do anything. You're already that. You are that. The story is, there was a son, and he goes to the father, and the father says, and the father was a very wise man, considered. His name was, I think his name was Aruni. Okay, Aruni. You don't have to remember the names or anything. And so the son goes, the son says, can you please teach me? The father says, no, that's not the tradition. The tradition is, I'm going to send you to school, and you're going to learn there. It's called the Gurukula. You go to the Gurukula, and you have to spend 12 years in the Gurukula, and you're going to learn everything, all of the scriptures. You're going to learn astronomy, you're going to learn mathematics, you're going to learn grammar, you'll become very educated. I want you to do very well in school. You go. So the son goes off for 12 years and studies in the school and comes back. When he arrives back home, the father says, so how'd you do in school, my son? And the son says, Dad, A's in everything. Top of the class, magna cum laude. The teachers loved me. I was fantastic. And he's going on and on about how great he did in school. The father's looking at him and says, I think this kid is a bit arrogant. Seems a little filled with himself. So the father looks at him and says, that's very good, but I want to ask you one question. Have you learned that thing, knowing which nothing remains to be known? The thing knowing which nothing remains to be known? Hey Dad, I don't think my teachers knew that thing. Is there such a thing? If there is such a thing, then you please teach me that. So the father says, okay, come sit, my son. I'm going to teach you that thing, which when you know it, nothing will remain to be known. And he begins to teach. He teaches him 9 times, because the first time the son didn't understand it, the second time, and every time he taught him, he ended the teaching with the phrase, Etatatmiyam idam sarvam tat satyam sa atma tattvamasi Svetaketu. That essence of all of this, that is the reality, that is the self, that thou art. Svetaketu. Svetaketu was the son's name. The son says, I don't understand this, teach me again. So he says, you know, like a lump of clay? First example. I'm not going to go through all 9, but you'll get the idea. A lump of clay. If I take that lump of clay and I make it into a pot, you call it a pot. If I take that lump of clay and I make it flat and round, you call it a plate. If I make it big like this, you call it a vase. You call it a cup, you call it a plate, you call it a vase. But there's nothing there but clay. The essence of the pot, the truth of the pot, is clay alone. Mritika iti eva satyam. But the clay alone is real. Vacharambanam. These are just names. Pot, vase, plate. They're just speech. But there's nothing but clay there. When you know the clay, then you know the truth of the pot, of the plate, of the vase, because really it's just clay. When you know the clay, there's nothing that remains to be known in the pot, because you know the truth of them. Well, there's an essence of this whole universe, a truth of this whole universe. All of this is just like that clay. Sarvam idam brahmam. All this is that absolute reality alone. You just call it this, you call it that. But there's just one reality, and you are that reality. Now, so we've gone this far so far. There's one reality according to Vedanta. The second statement is, you are that reality. But at this point, we have to object. How can I be that reality? I exist from the tip of this toe right here, right to here. This is me. I am this body, and I have some senses, and I have a mind, and I was born in a world that existed before me. I'm a little guy in an infinite universe that was born. I'm getting older, I'm going to get sick, and I'm going to die. How do you say that I am that, tattvamasi? It's against our experience. So the first unique point was there's only one reality without a second. The second unique point is you are that reality. But now there's a obvious contradiction. I'm not that reality. I'm a individual, small. I'm not Satchidananda. I don't exist beyond time and space. I'm not consciousness bereft of all objects. And I'm not pure bliss, because sometimes I'm happy and sometimes I'm sad. Sukhi dukhi, they call it in Sanskrit. Sukhi dukhi samsari. I am this born individual that's suffering with many different things, and I want to be happy, and I want to be free. I am not that. This, I don't know what this is, but I am not that. I am this. I am this. Aham idam. I am this, and this is mine. This is my house, my car, my wife, my money, my children. I am this, and this is mine. Aham idam, mama idam. This is everyone's experience. So, I am not that. It's a funny thing in Sanskrit. I just mentioned this. So it ends, Tat Satyam Sa Atma. Anybody know the word Atma? Atma means self, yeah? Atma ends with an A. And the word Tat there starts with a T. In Sanskrit, when the letters come together, you can read it Sa Atma, Tattvamasi, or Atattvamasi. That is the truth. You are not that. There was one philosopher in India, he came in the 13th century, he translated it like that. He's a dualist. Leave him alone. But the teaching, the actual grammar has to be Tattvamasi. It's a short A at the end of Atma. So, how are we going to reconcile the idea that I am not that? The word Tat means Brahman. You are Brahman. You are Satchidananda. You are without a second. You are infinite bliss. You are eternal freedom. And here is how we have to understand this. This I notion that we all have about ourselves, in Sanskrit is called the ahamkara. Has anyone heard of this word, ahamkara? Aham, I, kara, the maker, the I maker. That's literally what it means. That thing that makes the I. It's this idea that I have in my head. I am Ira. I live in America. I come to, where are we? Germany. I sitting on this I thought. I am fat. I am thin. I am fair. I am dark. I am blind. I am deaf. I am happy. I am sad. This I thought is jumping all over the place constantly. And this I is me. This is who I take myself to be. This I notion, ahamkara, they translate it into as ego. The ego. But the word ego is not a very good word because there was a German psychoanalyst by the name of Freud. You've all heard of him.
Austrian. He was Austrian.
Was he Austrian? Okay. So he's close by. And this ego, it has a psychoanalytical, so forget that. The I thought is better. So this I thought is who I take myself to be. Everyone does that. If I ask you, madam, who are you? You'll tell me, yeah? Oh, I practice yoga, and I want to learn some Vedanta, and I live. This whole story revolves around this I. So the third unique thing about Vedanta is the self is not this I notion that's constantly changing. But there is a principle in you deeper than this I notion, which is the witness, the knower, the observer. This I notion appears and disappears. It's an object to you. I know when the ego is present. I know when it's gone. in this waking state, this ego appears to me. But as soon as I go to dream, the waking ego disappears, and now I can have a new ego. The ego in the waking may be very extrovert, but now in the dream, I'm very shy. Two different egos. The waking ego appears in the waking state, but then that disappears, and I see a different ego in the dream. And then in deep sleep, I don't see any ego at all. The ego is an object that's constantly changing. How do you know it's changing? If you were the ego, how would you know it's changing? The ego is not the subject. The ego is an object. That which objectifies the ego is the true self in everyone. In you and you and you. That witnessing consciousness in you that doesn't change, is always present, is ever there, it's always shining. That inner self is Tat. You are that. That inner witness in you is the non-dual reality. It's not in time. Why? It's the witness of time. It's not in space. Why? It's the witness of space. It can't be cut, it can't be burnt, it doesn't get old, it doesn't get sick, it doesn't die. It's ever present, it's always shining, it's never hidden. There's nothing closer to you because it's your own self. You can think everything away, and I suggest that you try to do this. Try to remove every possible thing, negate everything, the world, your friends, your parents, your body, your thoughts, your memories, and see if that witnessing consciousness you can get rid of. Try it. You'll be able to negate everything except the witness in which all of the negation is taking place. It's the witness of every thought. It's the witness of every perception. It's the witness of every state. And it's absolutely different than everything that it witnesses. When happiness arises, the witness is not happy. When sadness arises, the witness is not sad. When the body is cut, the witness is not cut. The subject can never be the object. They're as different as light and darkness. I am the eternal subject. That is my eternal nature. But because I don't know this, because I haven't recognized this, I've taken myself to be the object. I've taken myself to be, I am this. I am this. But that I thought is just an object to me. I'm the subject in which the I appears and disappears. It's a little difficult to see how, if you look at your experience and you see that all the thoughts are appearing to me. Has anyone ever done vipassana? You've heard of meditation, Buddhist vipassana? So, and if you haven't, I'll just outline it. What you're supposed to do basically is to sit quietly and just observe whatever arises. Don't get attached to it. Whatever thought arises, whatever sensation, the feeling of the chair on your legs, the air moving through your nose, any sensations, just be aware of it. Any thought that arises, Just let it arise. It abides, and then it goes. Then another thought arises. Who are these thoughts arising to? Me. Even the I thought is arising to me. When you say me, that's the Atma. That's the real self. That me never changes. It has no color. It has no shape. It has no qualities. It's called nirguna, without qualities. Any quality is something that's observed, but the observer has no qualities. Never changes. It's always present. It's always shining. You can't think it away. It's the one thing you can't doubt. Why can't you doubt it? Because suppose you say, oh, I doubt that. That thought has to appear to that subject. You can doubt whether this thing is there. Maybe I'm hallucinating. It's not there. I can doubt that. But I can't doubt myself. If I say I doubt it, that witness which witnesses that thought has to be there. It's the very self of the one who says, I negate the self. It's the self of the negator. Does anybody have any idea what I'm talking about at this point? Yes? Yes. Okay.
Later question?
Now we don't get to questions yet, do we? Oh, we're over already? Okay.
5 minutes.
Well, 5 minutes. Let me just finish this off here. So here we have it. There's one reality without a second. I just have to say one more thing. In Vedanta, the definition of reality is that which never changes. And that which is changing can't be real. That's the definition. That which is changing can't be real. And that which never changes, that's the reality. Now you check your experience, and you see what's changing, and you see what's unchanging. It's in the Bhagavad Gita. The definition is na sato vidyate bhavaha, na bhavo vidyate sataha. For the unreal, that which is changing has no existence. And that which is real never goes out of existence. That witness in you, which is the witness not only of all your thoughts, it's the witness of your waking state. This is the hard part. If anybody gets this, you move up a notch. You can see kind of easy that you're the witness of all your thoughts. But are you able to see that you're the witness of your whole waking state? That the waking state, when you wake up every morning and the whole world appears to you, with all the people and the waking time and the waking space and the waking laws of nature and everybody, including this guy, he comes with the waking state too. You don't think that you're out of the waking state and this. When the waking state appears, this guy's in it. With his mind and his ego, he's in the waking state. And the whole state, with the time, space, causality, and me, this ego, appears in the waking state. As soon as I get under the covers at night, and this waking state ceases for me, a dream appears. The whole dream appears to me. And there's a dream ego. I'm talking to my friend. Hey, you see that tiger? Huh, a tiger, let's run. And so me, I'm in the dream, my friend's in the dream, the tiger's coming, there's the dream time, dream space. The whole state is appearing to me. I'm the witness of the dream. If I get cut in the dream, am I cut? If the tiger bites me in the dream, am I bit? I'm the witness, unattached, unaffected by whatever happens there. I'm not in the dream time. I'm not in the dream space. Now, if you could see that you're the witness of this waking state, your waking state, then you could also see that I'm not in the waking time or the waking space. I am immortal, timeless bliss. I'm not in time. Time appears and disappears to me. Here's the hardest part. And everybody in this room has had the experience of waking and dream, yes? Has anyone not had that experience? So we're not talking about anything mystical here. Now I'm going to mention a third state that I assume everybody here has had, and that's called deep sleep. What do I mean by deep sleep? All I mean by deep sleep is when I'm not aware of the waking and I'm not aware of the dream. When they've both ceased, I'm not aware of anything. I'm not aware of anything. That's called deep sleep. No time, no space, no me, no other. I'm not aware of anything. Does that mean that I'm not aware in deep sleep? I'm the one who sees the appearance of the waking. I'm the one who sees the appearance of the dream. And I'm the one who sees their disappearance. How do I know nothing's appearing in deep sleep? Is it a guess? Is it an inference? Do I use logic? Or is it my experience? I knew nothing. That I, there's no ego. Who's the I? That consciousness which is there in deep sleep, which is there in waking, which is there in dream, which is there in sleep, which never changes in any state, is the unchanging reality. Not in time, not in space. That's the only reality. That's why it's called Ekam Advityam. It is one without a second. Because when the dream appears, there's no real duality there. It's just a dream. I'm the only thing that's there. And when the waking appears, I'm the only reality that's there. It appears and disappears to me. Everybody thinks the dream is private and the waking is common. Nobody sees my dreams, but everybody sees this board here. This is common. But is it really true? Does everybody see your waking state? Or are you the only one to whom your waking appears? See what your experience is. Does the whole waking world come and go with your waking state? Everybody agrees the dream world comes and goes with the dream state. But nobody thinks the waking world comes and goes with the waking state. Even when I'm not awake, this waking world is here. How do you know? Because when I wake up, it's the same world that I left the day before. Yeah? But in the dream, the same experience. It looks like the same world. It's your friend that you knew for 40 years. The whole thing follows in the dream. It's all real. In fact, it's not even a dream. It's waking. You take it as real. It's not till you wake up. They say, oh, it's a dream. This waking is just like a dream. It's not real from the point of view of you. The witnessing consciousness. They're both the same. They appear and disappear. When the dream comes, the waking is totally canceled. And when the waking comes, the dream is canceled. But that witnessing consciousness, which is always present, is you. That's the true self. That's what it means. You are that. That's the essence of Vedanta. And over the next course of time, I'm going to try to draw that out so that everybody can have a strong conviction in their own experience that, this is what they're getting at. And I'm going to do it on the basis of the Bhagavad Gita. What I just said tonight, I'm claiming, is the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. There was no theology tonight. There was no mysticism that I just said. This unique teaching that there's just one reality, and that's you. That you is the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. It's not theology. In order to do this, we're not going to, it's only, what is this, a 5-day program? So we're not going to do the Bhagavad Gita. We're going to do a small section of one chapter. It's chapter 13. And I have made copies of it, so I'm going to hand it out so everybody will have it. And then we're going to discuss that chapter to bring out what is this teaching and what do I have to do to realize it for myself. What does spiritual life really mean? What is spiritual life about? And why is it necessary? I'm that. Why do I need to do any spiritual practice? I'm that. We'll discuss that. Let's end the class with that. There'll be time for questions tomorrow. I ran over, okay? So let's just end it with this. I'm going to end it with that prayer that I think most of you know, Purnamada Purnamidam. Let me translate it for you and we'll say it. Because you may know the prayer, but you may not know the meaning of it. Purnamada, that is fullness. Tat, that reality is totally full and complete, is called Purna. Purnamada, Purnamidam. This is fullness. This world is nothing but that same fullness. Purnamada, Purnamidam. Purnat, from that fullness, this fullness has come. Purnamadaya. Purnasya, of this fullness. Purnamudachite. Of this fullness, Purnamadaya. Take the fullness away. You remember when I said, remove everything? Purnameva avashishyate. Fullness alone remains. That is fullness, this is fullness. From that fullness, this fullness came. Take this fullness away, fullness alone remains. So beautiful. Om. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om.